Welcome to Grazora Live. My name is Jason McKenzie. I'm one of your hosts. Brett Adams is the co-host, and we're here to help small business owners be able to break free from that cage, that that stuck feeling, the trap feeling that you have because you build a business and it's gotten to a certain level, but now you're trapped in the business all day, every day, and don't know how to get out. We've got strategies, we got tips, we got tricks, we've got a bunch of information we're going to share with you to help you move on and up in your business. We're hoping to help 1 million businesses in the next few years, and we hope you're one of them. Brett, take it away. What are we talking about today?
Well, like as with anything we'll talk about, in order for a small business to be able to move forward, it's not usually about doing more, it's about doing less, but more of the right thing. And one of the things that trips up a lot of small businesses is they think they need more leads.
Yeah.
And in some cases, that is absolutely true. But often there is some other factor that is the thing that's actually limiting their growth besides their ability to generate leads. Some of
Okay.
those could be their offer just isn't attractive to the leads they're getting. It could be that they're targeting the wrong leads. It could be that their sales process is terrible, or there could be something in the customer journey that causes customers to bounce off. Um, and those are just a few samples of things that could be the real root issue besides just leads. And with your experience, is there any insight you have on that with recent clients?
It's kind of funny as you were talking about that. I had an experience where I was at a networking group and talking to a bunch of different business owners, get done, and I leave the meeting and someone comes chasing out, catches me. Hey, I wanted to talk to you. I've got this major problem. I'm hoping you can help me out. And they were essentially looking for us to go in and polish their online presence. And I started pushing on that. Well, why do you want your online presence polished? Like, why waste all that money? You could go fishing. You could go buy whatever you want to buy with all that money. And they said, well, you see, I want more customers. Well, you want more customers. Yeah. And so you think that polishing your online presence is going to give you more customers. Well, it should give me more people coming in and more leads. And that's why the connection here for the story. I pushed on that a little bit further. I said, oh, okay, so you need more leads. And they said, well, and they just kind of got this weird, like, ooh, look on their face. And like, well, I don't know. And as we explored it and we started really digging in for a couple minutes, it turned out the issue that they were facing wasn't that they didn't have enough leads. The issue they were facing came back to the business owner was so busy in the company. If any more business came in, they would have been totally overwhelmed and burned out, and probably would have. They were like, I'd probably be done. I would just quit. I'd throw the whole company away. And so the issue wasn't what they thought it was, that they needed more leads. The issue in this situation was they needed better processes and they needed team members that they could trust in order to be successful in their business. So it's so amazing because I think we as business owners often have this happening. And those hands that are in front of my face are actually the problems that small business owners are, like, they're just trying to figure this out. And what's that movie of the guy who becomes a doctor, Patch Adams? And when he's in the insane asylum, the guy's like, "How many fingers do you see?" And he does that to everybody. And it's once you look past the problem to the solution, you can see the right answer. And that's what that guy was trying to get across over and over. So many people are so fixated on these problems right in front of their face, they never can see the real solution.
Yeah, and that is something that I've seen, that exact issue that you talked about several times, that a business owner feels stuck and they think they need to have a bigger business and that will allow them to get unstuck, where all they're doing is building a bigger, stronger cage
Yeah.
that continues to trap them even more and take more of their time, more of their effort, and more of their energy, just draining the life right out of them. And so yeah, one of the things that you'll, as you watch this program with us, you'll notice that we really want to get down to the root causes and uncover these fallacies that so many small business owners believe, so that they can really begin to scale.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and I had a friend who was trying to build his business bigger and bigger and bigger, and he finally posted on social media and said, "You know what? I realized I was chasing the wrong thing," and he shrunk his business back down. back down to a manageable level, because where he was at in life and what the knowledge he had, he could handle working X number of hours a week himself. And he didn't have the tools in his tool belt to be able to pull out and say, oh, this is how I properly scale the business. So his solution was, well, I'm just going to shrink it back down. And he said, I realized it's not worth the effort to try and have the money. And I thought, whoa, that's all a matter of perspective, because the richest people in the world don't work as hard as a small business owner. They don't. Almost without exception, they don't work as hard as a small business owner. But the pile of money a small business owner is this. The richest people in the world's pile is like this. So it's not how hard you're working for the money, it's the way you're working for it.
Well, I heard recently that most small business owners, they work more hours for less money than most standard employees. They're working 60, 80 plus hours a week for an average of $36,000 a year.
Oh,
It's like, who wants to take the risk of being in business and all of the stress and headache, because it never leaves? You don't get to put it away when you go home at night.
yep.
And for 36,000 a year, I mean, we could go out and get a job making that much or more and turn it off at 5 o'clock when we go home.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is so we've identified that there are fallacies that a lot of business owners have. One common being that they need more leads.
Mm-hmm.
But let's zero in onto one of the things that might actually be, and let's talk a little bit more about the offer, because
Sure.
that is such a core tenet of every business of any size, and as a business grows, their offer needs to grow with them.
Right.
But let's talk about what are the core aspects that make up an offer.
I like that. Yeah, because a lot of business owners don't have a clue. And I know I was trapped in that very thing. For years, I thought that every customer that was going to come to me needed a completely rethought of solution for their business. If they're coming to me, I got to find something custom. I got to hear every little detail of everything. Then I have to craft this intricate solution. And because it's so intricate, I have to be there and I have to be the one that has to solve it, because who else could think of all the intricacies? And then I would hand them what I considered an offer back to them, and all it was me trying to solve a few problems, and it came down to me not knowing how to build an offer that was creating so much stress in my life. And years later, I finally got educated, and when that happened, I realized an offer is a stack of solutions. It could be products, it could be services, it could be benefits that the customer sees. And when you combine those together, that's what makes up an offer. And so it could be a handful of very common things. I know if you were to walk into a store and you're like, okay, I need to walk through the store, and I'm buying my milk and I'm buying some Oreos and I'm buying some ice cream, and you can do that, and you're going to go home and make a milkshake. That's a number of products. But that store could also put together an offer where it's the milkshake, the DIY milkshake special, right? And you walk in and they've got the box. You just pull a box off the shelf, stick it in your cart, walk out, and they've saved you the effort of having to walk through the store to get all of the elements you'd want for your milkshake. That's the difference to me between a product and an offer. They've saved me time, they've packaged it conveniently, and they've put all the things so I don't have to think about it together, and they're handing it to me in a nice, easy to understand system. Brett, what are your thoughts?
Well, as you're talking about that milkshake example, it reminds me of an example from Clayton Christensen, a renowned business thinker, and he helped a company solve an issue to actually sell more milkshakes. And the way that they did it is they
Now,
actually
are you
talked to the
saying
customers.
really milkshakes?
Actual milkshakes,
Oh man,
yes.
this is great.
Helped a restaurant sell a lot more milkshakes. And so this restaurant was trying to figure out, how do we sell more milkshakes? And so this is something super simple that every business should be doing. Talk to your customers. Find out, why are they buying a milkshake? Because because your customer may have bypassed your crappy offer to buy your product anyway.
Yeah.
There are a few who will. And if you can figure out why they're buying your product or service, then you can recraft an offer to actually target and speak directly to more people like that customer. And so in this case, people were buying a milkshake, so they had something to do while they were stuck in traffic
Oh, interesting.
on their commute. So the restaurant owner was thinking that it was people were buying for families, for like treats for their children, things like that. But they actually started marketing and created an offer just for people who were commuting to work in the morning and they're stuck in traffic for 2 hours. They wanted something that was easy and convenient to solve boredom fundamentally.
Gotcha.
And so they repackaged their offer, and their milkshake sales skyrocketed.
So I like what you said, because we've identified to have an offer, first you have to know what can go into that package. And then second, we have to understand who our customers are, what they're thinking about, and what they care about, so that we know how to present that package to them and make sure we have the right items in that package, right?
Yes. Yeah, and fundamentally, another story I was thinking about is one of my companies. Early on, it was like we thought we needed a lot more leads,
Mm-hmm.
and I had set up a process for getting our leads estimates and following up. Well, our revenue was declining,
Oh,
and we were trying to figure out what's going on. Our leads we have more leads, but yet revenue is declining. Well, when I actually looked into it, I found out they had gotten so busy doing more leads that they had quit doing the follow-up.
oh no.
And so even though we were getting more leads, our conversion rate dropped right out the bottom
Right.
because we weren't doing our follow-ups. And so we were, anyway, as you can imagine, and these are problems that are common to all businesses. And so you've got to look at the whole system. You've got to talk to your
Mm-hmm.
customers, and you've got to stay on top of what's really going on, so you can solve the right problem at the right time.
Yeah, I could just imagine how frustrating that would be. You're opening up the bank account, looking in there. Why is it going down? You look over here and they're stacking up their pile of leads, more leads, more leads, more leads, and yet the whole machine's broken. Right?
Right.
Leads never make the money into the bank account. So that's a
Yeah.
really important consideration too, to make sure that your offer is actually being presented to the customer, and then you're checking in to see if they're interested.
Yes. Yeah. So with anything, there's always there's almost always a deeper level that you can look at to find the real root cause, and making sure that you're solving the root issue is what will actually give you traction, help you move your business forward, so you can turn from that cage that you've created yourself and start building freedom.
Yeah. So how do people know if their problem is a shortage of leads, or if they don't have an offer, or if they're not following up? Like, where does a small business owner go to get that clarity to take the problem far enough away that they can see it?
Well, one of the simplest things that you can do is you can just pick up the phone and call your customers. Like,
Mhm.
actually talk to them
Not not
person
a
to person,
not an email, not a text.
not an email, not a text. Actually talk to your real customers and ask them why, what. Talk to people who, if you got a website and people sign up and they go through most of the checkout and then they stop at the end, if you have any way to contact them, find out why they fell off.
Hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter. People who have been customers, people who talked to you but didn't, talk to everybody. Like, you almost cannot talk to your potential customers too much to find out what's going on. And that data that you collect from them, you turn that into information, and that will give you everything you need to know how to move forward with confidence.
I think this is an important distinction, that when you're asking them, you're not calling them to hard sale or to try and push them into something or to change their mind or any of that. It's merely to explore so that you understand your customer's mind. That's what you're talking about here, is
Yeah,
the business owner needs to understand what they're thinking, not change what the other person's thinking.
Exactly. Yeah, you're asking them for help. You're saying, "Help me out. I'm trying to grow this business and I'd like to know what your experience has been. Just give it to me straight." And if you're looking for a script that is particular to your business, AI is really good at generating something that you can use to talk to your customers again without trying to change your mind, but really, really listen. Don't take offense. Really try and listen and recreate what they're saying. Put
Mm-hmm.
yourself in their place so that you can really get what's going on. And if more small business owners would do that, they would be able to find out which customers are the best customers and how to talk to those best customers so they can have more of their customers be that best customer instead of having to take money from anybody with a pulse and a wallet.
Right. Yeah. We were just talking about it that internally recently, where I had someone reach out to me and they started telling me what Jason, not my company, but what Jason was going to do for them. And and I and I had to put the brakes on that and say, well, no, I don't actually do that service. And they said, oh no, it's not a problem. You'll be able to do this just fine. And I had to stop them and say, well, I don't think you understand. We're not a good fit for what you're looking for. Here's what we offer as a company. And it has nothing to do with what you're telling Jason has to do for you. And had Jason been had that conversation happened several years earlier, I would have said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll do that. We'd be happy to do that. But because I was able to take the time to understand who my customer is, my good customers are, and understand the way they think, the way they talk, what they care about, and build offers that match that, I was able to say, this human's not a bad person. They just don't fit the profile of my customer. And what they want doesn't fit any of the offers that we've crafted for our customer. Therefore, it's better for me to say, hey, I've got this other company that's probably a good fit for you. Let me introduce you to them and push that one away. And what I just did in that moment was I was able to take a potential terrible disaster because I'm not set up to do the work he's wanting. My team's not set up to do the work he's wanting. We would have ended up giving him subpar work, trying to collect an extra few dollars. Then he'd have been dissatisfied because it wasn't the quality he was expecting, which would probably end up with him going out, leaving a bad review potentially, telling his friends, oh, Jason's terrible. Don't ever work with Jason. But instead, we short circuited all of that. We were able to see he wasn't a fit for my offers. He wasn't a fit from who my ideal customer is. We push him to someone else. That other company's grateful because that customer is a fit for their profile. And now that customer's happy with the new company. That new company's grateful to us. And I dodged a bullet. Like it's the biggest win-win-win in the planet. All because
Yeah.
we took time to know our customer and our offer.
Yeah, and that is one of the things that it's just so sad to me when I work with a new business owner or an established business owner and they're not taking the time to know their customers, to
Mm,
not having those conversations. And one of the things to remember is whether you're just starting out or whether you've been in business for a while or whether you're doing really, really well, um, having that feedback loop with the customers is super important in order to stay relevant and continue to grow and get to where you want to go. Now, you may think if you're just getting started, you may be in a position where you have to take money from everybody.
yeah.
If they're even remotely close to what you offer, you may need to, and realize that that's a phase that you will go through. And as you get more experience and more resources, you can transition to more advanced phases to where you're in a position to say no to customers that aren't the right fit.
Yeah. And it's important to recognize, like you say, that's a phase, usually the startup phase. But some business owners never mentally get out of that phase. So the business has grown, and yet they're still scrapping for any possible person. They're like, oh, we missed an opportunity. And then they go chase it down, and it's a terrible one, and they hate it, and everything
Mm-hmm.
crashes and burns. They're like, oh, so glad that project's done. And then another opportunity walks by, and they go and chase it and repeat, 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 because they don't ever mentally move to a new position to where they can build the systems that get them out of that startup phase.
Exactly. Yeah. So um, I feel like we've covered that pretty well. Is there any more you'd like to add around offers and focusing on on the right thing?
So let's talk for a minute about offers and the concept of pricing, because you can't build an offer without a price. And
Okay,
so,
perfect.
like we always, there always has to be a price associated with it. And sometimes people have a free offer, but there's still a price. And the price of a free offer is usually the potential customer's contact information. And the entire reason why you're giving that free offer out there is it's kind of like casting a hook out in the water with a little bit of bait on it to see who's going to nibble. And then you'll know, oh, this is a really good one because we're catching all the right kind of fish, or we're catching all the right kind of customers. So how should somebody structure pricing?
Well, I'll tell you what people shouldn't do. One, find out what the guy down the street's selling the same thing for and just go a little lower.
Okay.
Figuring out what it costs you, adding 20% and calling it a day, which are two of the most common things that I see people do. What
Mm-hmm.
you should do is you should look at what result you get your customers
Okay.
and charge for the result.
Hmm. So what do you mean by that?
Well, so if I, to use a common example, if I sold weight loss as a fitness coach or dietitian or whatever, I'm not one of those, but if I was, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
um, I could figure out for my customer, and again, that's the other part of offers that we haven't really covered, which an offer needs to be targeted to a particular niche. Um, for my niche, if being at a healthy weight is really important to them, and they have money to spend, it's the result to them is going to be much more valuable than if let's say I'm doing uh, that same offer for lower income individuals who have no real care that of how they look.
Gotcha.
And so the result that so sometimes your pricing is going to be based on the category of client that you have in that, um, for that particular offer. One of my favorite business coaches, Talking More, he has something where you look vertically, um, for that in that market, whether the people are bleeding, whether they're struggling. I mean, these are people who are trying to get away from pain. They're running a business or their life, whatever, and they're trying to get away from pain, or if they're scaling or leading. And these are people who really are doing well, and they're moving towards what they want rather than away from pain.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to craft a different offer for each one of those levels, and you're going to have a different price for each one of those levels. So as a business owner, you can, we often think that we want to go for the lower cost, higher volume clients, but that's actually a high level play. If you really want to scale your business, you can do the best by upgrading your avatar, which allows you to upgrade your offer to an offer that's more valuable to the right person. And so you can sometimes change your price from $1,000 to $2,000 or $5,000 by upgrading the avatar that you're serving, even though you're doing the exact same things.
What
And
do you mean when you say the avatar of who I'm serving?
so if I'm doing, lawn care,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a $1 million home that I'm selling lawn care for
Mm-hmm.
in in a high class neighborhood where they really care what their neighbors think. They have a half acre lawn and some shrubs and other things. The cost that I would charge for that is going to be what I'm going to charge for that is going to be very different than what, uh, if I'm in a trailer park, offering my lawn care services.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the avatar is different,
So
not
when you
because the
say
work I'm doing
avatar,
is
you mean the
different.
ideal customer that you're
Yes.
targeting. So really what you're saying is a few different things. When you're trying to figure out pricing on an offer, you need to understand who your customer is,
Yes.
and what their motivation is, why they're coming to you for your offer. Make sure your offer is stacked well to solve those problems. And then you have to communicate how you're going to solve the main problems they have. And what I think is really interesting is so often these people don't even realize what some of the problems are that they're coming to you to solve. Like they don't understand the root. They're like, oh, I know I need X, but they haven't thought through all the reasons. When you can articulate the reasons they're coming to you better than they can articulate them, they're going to buy from you, and price becomes less important because you've established a level of trust that your competition doesn't. Business only happens when there's enough trust that they believe they can hand you the money and you'll hand them the results. So one of the major things for me with pricing is there's going to be some mental levels that people have established that they're willing to spend at. And so if you understand those mental levels that they're at and you're able to exceed the trust factor necessary to have them ring in and be like, oh man, I really trust this organization. I think they're going to be doing a great job. I have no fear handing them X amount of money. When you can figure that out, and that takes a little bit of trial and error and really understanding that profile, like you were talking about, your avatar, they're going to hand that money to you willingly, even if it's 30% more, even if it's 50% more than your competition. But there's also the intelligence of knowing when to be 50% more or when to come in at the competition or below the competition. So there's a lot of trial and error and thought process that needs to go into picking a price. And the cool thing is you can adjust your price. You're not locked in
Yes.
forever. And that's one of the things that I know I was stuck with forever. I was like, oh man, how do I set a price? That's going to be so scary. And then I tell this guy this price. And if I want to change it a few months later, I can't do that because I told him this. And I was like, well, no, time is the factor that changes everything. And all the major companies are monkeying with price all the time. I bet you've never bought the gas at the same price from one time to the next. It's always up a few cents, down a few cents, like it always is moving. So people are kind of used to that to a certain degree. You can't be bouncing by $10,000 if you're offering the same service to next door neighbors all the time. But add a little time to that, and you can make some adjustments to price as well as you're figuring out where your sweet spot is, especially if you're able to articulate that my offer has changed. Maybe you have a new benefit in there. Maybe you have a new feature in there. Something like that allows you to adjust price and justify it back to your customers so they don't lose trust in you.
Yes. So it's justifying, but also making sure that the cost of that they understand the cost of not working with you, the cost of not having your service.
Yeah.
And if you can anchor them to the cost of not having what you offer, that becomes something that becomes a value that they're willing to pay to take care of whatever pain you solve with your offer.
Yeah. And I think one of my favorite sayings that I heard was there was somebody who was like, well, I think you're too expensive. And the guy's response was, well, if I charged less, would that make you trust me more? And that kind of, whoa, catches people off guard, right? Like, oh, of course not. I'm not, like, my trust isn't determined on the amount of dollars exchanging. So it's able to, then you can decouple that a little bit and start exploring again as to what customers really do want to pay.
Yeah, which gets into both sales psychology and other factors.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so when you're first starting out, you may very well copy what the guy down the street is doing, or do cost plus pricing. But as you get some experience under your belt, you talk to your customers more, figure out what the value is for the result that you get your clients, your customers,
Yeah.
and charge for that.
I like it. And then make sure you can explain to them ahead of time what that result will be in a way that gets them emotionally connected and trust you. Then the price becomes non-issue.
Yeah, which is all part of crafting an amazing offer, which we could do a whole segment on, just the process for crafting high level offers.
For sure. Hey, I think we've covered a lot of information today. We've probably blown a few brain cells for customers, or for listeners, I mean. Before we go, though, I'd like to invite everyone, if you have any questions, if you have concerns, if you have thoughts, if any of that, if you want us to discuss, or send us a message or leave us a comment, send us a DM, and let us know what it is you'd like us to cover. We're here to help 1 million small business owners move from being stuck in that cage to having the freedom of time and money, having the business power their life so that they can have the life they want. Thanks, everybody. We'll tune in again next week, same time.